how to set up all the data screens in your Garmin, coming up. Hello everybody, my name is Ben Parks, 236 marathoner and ultra runner, and what I want to talk to you today about is how I go about setting up my Garmin watch to do all of the various different bits of training and racing that go about sort of my week on a monthly basis. So really important, we spend huge amounts of money on these little GPS devices that live on our wrist, only for what I see the vast majority of people that go out and just use the same sort of 3 or 4 fields on one screen, and that's it. And you can get so much sort of more benefit out of these, and how you run your sessions and how you go about your sessions if you've got it set up properly with the right data screens and you know how to use it. So yeah, I have a Garmin 935, really good watch for any sort of well, I use it for all the racing and running that I do. So I use this in my ultras and all of the road races, and I think it's a fantastic bit of kit. Right, so without further ado, let's crack on with the video. So I've got 5 different sort of setups that I use for the various different things, and they're coming up now. So the first screen I'm going to have a look at is what I have for my race screen. So any race that I do, apart from ultras, so any sort of road distance, 5k, 10k, half marathon, marathons, that sort of thing, this is what I'm going to have on my screen, and I'll only keep it on this screen throughout the whole race. I won't be looking at any other screens. So at the top, we've just got distance. That's distance travelled from the start line. So for me, every kilometre that goes by, the top field there is going to click over to the next kilometre. Then the one in the middle, probably the most important one, time, so that's elapsed time from the start. And then at the bottom, I've got my average pace. So yeah, to be fair, the bottom one, the average pace, is probably what I'm going to be looking at the most. It's really good when you set off on the start line of a marathon to have that average pace in mind for what you want to achieve. So if you're looking for a 3-hour marathon, then you're going to be looking at trying to keep a 4:16 kilometre average. I'm not sure what it is in miles, about 6:52 average. And you just keep an eye on that as the race goes on, and then you'll know that you're always going to be on the right pace. So yeah, that is my race screen. Right guys, moving on, this is what I have on my watch screen for any intervals that I'm doing. So there's 2 screens I actually use depending on whether I'm doing intervals based on distance or intervals based on time. So the only field that's different is the field at the bottom, so that screen's set up in time and this screen is set up in distance here. So to go through the top 3 fields first, we've got heart rate, then lap pace and last lap pace. So yeah, just quickly about laps. Most watches are set up to lap every kilometre or every mile automatically. For a lot of sessions, you want to turn that feature off for when you do the session, unless you happen to be lapping in that exact distance. So for me, I work in kilometres. If I'm doing kilometre intervals, then I just leave it switched on because I know the watch will lap every kilometre anyway. But say I'm doing sort of some mile repeats, or I'm doing some sort of 400 metres or 800 metres, then I'll turn it off and I'll lap my watch manually by pressing this button just here. So that's what a lap is. It can be any distance or any time that you want it to be for the session that you're doing. And then the lap pace that you're currently on. So say I've just set off on my 400 metre repeats, going round and round the track. That's the pace that is going to appear in there for that particular lap that I'm on. And I go all the way around the track, come back to the start, manually lap it, and then the pace that I've achieved on that particular lap will then appear in last lap. And yeah, so that's how lap and last lap work. And then heart rate, really important when you're during your sort of recovery phase. So you've gone all out and then you're recovering. I like to look at my heart rate to make sure that it's come right back down and it's at a sort of a nice low level. So for me, that's going to be about 140 beats a minute. If it's a stationary recovery, then that's obviously going to be right back down hopefully sort of under 100 before we go again. But it's just really important to monitor that, to make sure that if you are doing sort of running recoveries during your interval session, that your heart rate is coming right back down again. So again, say I was doing 6 by 1K, I'll be monitoring the distance here. And then, so yeah, I always sort of know how far I've gone. If I was doing a session maybe like 6 by 3 minutes, I'd use this screen here and just monitor my sort of lap time there. Then every 3 minutes, I'd just hit the manual lap button, and then I'd have maybe a 2-minute recovery, monitor the 2 minutes, hit the lap button again, and then I'll be off on my next 3-minute burst. So yeah, there we go. That is my interval watch screen. So moving on to what I have on my watch for a progressive run. Now, if you're not sure what a progressive run is, it's a sort of a predetermined distance. So normally around about 6, 7, anything up to about 8 or 9, even up to 10 kilometers, anywhere between 6 and 10 kilometers basically, where every kilometer that you run is faster than the kilometer before. So it's really important to know what sort of your current sort of pace on your current kilometer is, and also what the last kilometer you ran is as well, because then your current sort of lap should be faster than your previous lap. So this is the screen I use for that. It's pretty similar to the one I use for the interval sessions as well. So distance, that's basically just sort of counting up to however long I'm going to be doing my intervals for. So for me, I usually do about 8 kilometers on my progressive runs. So just keep an eye on that, and it just sort of ticks up all the way up to 8 kilometers. And I've got lap pace, so that's the current kilometer that I'm on. And yeah, I'm just hoping that is going to be faster than the kilometer before. So for your first kilometer, of course it is going to be faster because you haven't got anything to go on. Then as soon as you finish the first K, so I did my first K in 5 minutes, and then that 5 minutes would then appear here, and then I'll be trying to do my next kilometer in say sort of 4:50, and then I'll be trying to keep 4:50 in this sort of lap pace here, and then as that kilometre finishes, 4:50 will then appear on this screen, and then I'll be trying to do 4:40, and I'll then just keep an eye on this lap pace here, and all the way up to your sort of goal distance. I'd like to keep an eye on my heart rate just to make sure I'm not completely overdoing it nor at the end, so I just have sort of a percentage figure down here up to my sort of percentage of max. It's, you know, my max heart rate's up about 190, so I just know sort of how much I've got sort of reserved in the tank as such. You could just have your heart rate in there if you wanted. Not always that important, but I just like to use every field on my watch for that. So moving on to easy runs or recovery runs, this is the screen I use for that. Now, believe it or not, I just have the one data field, which isn't showing up here because my watch isn't on my wrist. But it's just showing you what the heart rate is. I really believe that on your sort of easy recovery runs, that is the only bit of data that you need to know. Of course, you can flick up, you know, have a look at the other screens and see sort of how far you've gone if you need to know. But for most of the time, my watch is lapping anyway. So every lap that comes up, I get sort of, the distance appears on the screen at the time. So I've got a rough idea of how fast I'm going. But you really need to keep that sort of heart rate nice and low, under 150 beats a minute, and just monitor on that. And some days you'll run a lot faster, and some days you run a lot slower. It just sort of depends how your body's feeling on that particular day. But it sort of keeps you really in tune, so you're always running at the right level of intensity for those recovery runs. So yeah, really strongly advised, you only need your heart rate data on the screen just for those runs. So moving on, this is the main screen that I use when I'm doing mountain ultras or ultras in the UK, any sort of ultra distance route where you tend to be following a course that's usually quite well marked, but a lot of the time isn't. So for a lot of these races, you can download what's called a GPX file. You can download that onto your watch, and that activates sort of the navigation features. And most races will give these out. You can download them off their website. So then, this is sort of the main screen that I use. So the top half of the screen, I've got a little blue arrow, which is sort of where I am. And then as I'm following the route along, sort of a black line will appear along the screen, and then I just have to simply follow that black line. This particular watch doesn't have sort of full maps built in, but the sort of more advanced Fenix 5 watches, the Fenix 5 Plus watches, for example, do have maps built in, so you can actually get a nice colourful map here as well. This watch doesn't have that. But as I say, a lot of the other sort of more expensive ones do. And then I just like to keep an eye on distance remaining. So again, a lot of these sort of mountain ultras, you're up in the mountains and distance travelled, you can get sort of issues with GPS in those things, and it can jump around a little bit. And so your distance travelled might be slightly inaccurate. And that can kind of play with your head a little bit when you think, I know this checkpoint is at 90 kilometres and I now have run 92, so where is it? Well, I like to use the distance remaining because I know that is always going to be absolutely bang on accurate, because it's just using the GPX file to see how far I am now away to the end. So I like to count down. It's also a good sort of psychological thing to always know that my distance is going down, so I'm always getting closer to the finishing line. And then I just keep an eye on my average pace as well. Again, if you've got goals for sub 24 hours, sub 20 hours, you know, you have an idea of what average pace you need to hit for that to get to the finish line. So that's what I keep on my watch, probably for about 80% of the time. And then I flip between that and this screen as well, just to keep an eye on my battery level in case I need to top up the watch. You know, my watch is pretty good on battery, but you know, it's not going to last 24 hours. And then if I keep it on this screen, then I have got distance travelled, my total elapsed time, and the distance remaining screen there as well. So yeah, so there's sort of two screens that I go between for my ultras. I kind of think that gives me all the information that I need to know. So there we have it, guys. That is how I set up my watch to you know, go about all of my sort of daily and weekly running and training, and then also on race day as well. So I hope you found this video useful. I would love to, you know, go through all the ins and outs of the watch and how to set up all those data screens, but every watch on the market is slightly different. If you haven't got any problems, then always drop me a message and I'll try and talk you through how to set it up exactly on your watch. So yeah, I'm off probably to have a shave because I really need to get rid of some of this, and I will see you in the next video. Hope you like this one. A like and a subscribe down below really helps build the channel out, and I'd really appreciate it. So thanks for all the love, guys, and I will see you in the next one.